Hello students, this is Guru Rajan teaching you first year biology. We have been seeing morphology in flowering plants. It is lecture number 8 we are going to discuss in today's class. So, morphology of flowering plants we have been dealing. In that, I was telling you about root system and then stem we started. In the previous lecture, I told you about stem modifications, you may remember. Just I will give you one outline about stem modification in this class. So, as far as stem modifications are concerned, in addition to main function, the stem may undergo some changes in order to perform extra functions. So, in order to perform some extra function, a stem may undergo some changes. Those morphological external changes are called stem modification, we can say. You may recall this stem modification can be studied under three major headings like this. The first one is underground stem modification. Of course, in your textbook, there is no classification like this. But for your remembrance, I will tell you all these points. But examples are given in your textbook with one sentence each. So, let us classify them into three groups. Underground stem modification is one group. Aerial stem modification is another group. Third one is known as sub-aerial stem modification. From the name itself, you can understand underground stem modification will be happening below the soil. Aerial modification will be happening above the soil. And subaerial modification means partly below the soil and partly above the soil, the stem will undergo some changes. Those changes are grouped together as stem modification. I already told you about examples and types of underground modification also. Remember, in underground modification, we have come across rhizome as the first example, you may remember. For rhizome, what is the example given in your textbook means ginger and turmeric are the two best examples given for rhizome. So, ginger and turmeric, they come under rhizome. Second type of underground modification is called as corm type of condition. Corm it can be called. For corm, we have seen an example called colocasia, or otherwise elephant yam it can be called. YAM it can be called. Elephant yam or colocasia it can be called. In Kannada, we call it as swarnagadde. That is corm or colocasia, remember. Thirdly, I was telling you about stem tuber also. The third modification, underground modification, is known as stem tuber. For this tuber, we have seen the example called potato. On the other day, I told you about biological name of potato, you may recall. Solanum tuberosum, it can be called. For ginger, the biological name was Gingiber officinale. Remember that point? Stem tuber is shown by potato. In addition to this stem tuber, we have come across a fourth type of underground modification also. That is known as bulb type of stem modification. Very popular example for bulb is onion, remember. Onion is coming under underground stem modification, where the main stem will be condensed into a disc-shaped structure below the ground. Then from that disc-shaped condensed stem, many scale leaves will arise. They will be meant for storage. That is bulb modification, it can be called. So, four types of underground stem modification you have to recall. Next, let me come to second type, second modification called aerial modification. In aerial modification, we have seen some examples like stem tendrils, you may be remembering. Stem tendrils. Remember, stem tendrils, they are exhibited by some plants like Passiflora. Remember, Passiflora is the example given in your textbook for stem tendril. They are thin coiled structure which will help for support. Remember, it is an aerial part. Tendrils will arise from axillary bud. Second aerial modification I told you was stem thorns. In the previous class, we have seen all these things in detail. Stem thorns will be sharp but a stout structure, a short structure. That thorns will be found in the case of rose plant, even bougainvillea, you may be remembering, they exhibit stem thorns. In addition to this stem tendril and stem thorn, I was telling you about phylloclad also. Phylloclad. Xerophytes like Opuntia exhibits phylloclad. In phylloclad, stem will become leaf-like structure, broad flat structure, green in color. They will undergo photosynthesis. So photosynthetic stem will be called as phylloclad, remember. Even I was telling you about the fourth modification, aerial modification, which is called as cladode, remember. Cladode. Cladode, a single internode of the phylloclad. It will produce one internode only in groups. They will not grow like what are that nodes and internodes like that. They will not develop. Single internodes are produced here. They will also undergo photosynthesis. Example for cladode is asparagus. We have seen asparagus racemose, that is indicating cladode type. Fifth type of aerial modification is for vegetative propagation or asexual reproduction. You may remember, for asexual reproduction there is an aerial modification which is known as bulbil. Remember, bulbs are coming under underground modification, whereas bulbils are coming under aerial modification. Example for it is Dioscorea. Remember, Dioscorea, agave, I told you, they are all exhibiting what is that? This bulbil type of modification. Remember, these 5 types are included under aerial modification. Underground modification 4 types, aerial modifications 5 types, totally 9 types you may recall. Let me come to the subaerial modification which we have seen in the previous lecture. That is, in the subaerial modification we could come across runner. Remember, runners are exhibited by grasses like cyanodon. Remember, cyanodon is a type of grass which exhibits runner type of stem modification, where the stem will be producing branches in all directions and single slender branches are produced in all directions. So even if main stem is damaged by grazing animals, other branches will start to survive actually. That is called a runner, we can say. I was telling you about stolon also in subaerial modification. Stolons will have generally some thick internode, but they will arch above the ground. Again they will produce adventitious roots. So the stolon will arch above the ground like this. They will produce adventitious roots, and here they will produce rosette of leaves, we are telling. What is that rosette of leaves means? Group of leaves arranged in circles. So circular arrangement of leaves are produced in the form of rosette. That is stolon, we can say. For stolon, you might have heard the examples like oxalis. Oxalis, it is exhibiting a stolon type of stem modification. Even I told you about a third type of subaerial modification. Runner, stolon, third one is called as offset. Remember, offset. Offsets are found in hydrophytes, while phylloclads are found in xerophytes, desert or dry habitat plants. Offsets are found in water-living plants called hydrophytes. Hydrophytes example you may remember Eichhornia is given in your textbook. In addition to that, pistia, eichhornia, they are all exhibiting offset. Even we can come across fourth type also. Runner, stolen, offset, and sucker we have to remember. For sucker, chrysanthemum is the best example. And here also, chrysanthemum, the main stem will be growing below the soil. Suddenly they will produce oblique branch above the soil. The stem underground will produce oblique branch. Oblique means sudden growing above. That is called oblique. A kind of angular growth will be there. That is oblique condition. Suckers, example, chrysanthemum. Even banana plant, they exhibit this one. Pineapple, they exhibit this type of sucker. Many examples are given in your textbook. They have given ginger, colocasia, potato, everything, but they did not mention the modification name. But try to understand these names also. Rhizome, corm, stem, tuber, bulb and all. You will not find in your textbook. But it can be asked in NEET exam and competitive exams as match the following. One side they will give the scientific name of the modification. Another side they will give the examples in a jumbled manner. You have to match the things correctly. So remember, it is the summary of stem modification. In the previous classes, I explained you everything. Now I have given you a summary for just your memorizing point. Underground, aerial and subaerial modification, totally 4 plus 5 plus 4. That means 13 modifications we could see in the stem. So we have completed 2 important organs in plant morphology of angiosperm. One is root, another one is stem. Let me go to the third type of modification, third type of organ called leaf now. Before starting the leaf, just I will give you half a minute break. Make note of this point. Make note of all these things. Be fast. Okay, students, we have completed 2 important organs in angiosperm. One is called the root system or root, another one is called the stem. In root, I told you about general characters. I told you about parts of a root system or root also. Even we have seen functions of root and modification of root. Similarly, in a stem, I told you about general characters of the stem, and there is no structure and other things. But in stem, directly we have gone to the modification of the stem. Function of the stem you may be knowing. It is helpful for conduction of water and mineral. It is the ascending part of the plant body. Okay. Let me come to the third organ in angiosperms, in the morphology of angiosperm. In all the angiosperms, leaf becomes one of the important organs here. The leaf. I am going to talk about leaf here. You may be remembering the general definition for the leaf. What is a leaf? One more question can be asked. A leaf can be defined as a kind of flattened, a flat and at the same time green colored lateral appendage of the angiosperm, it can be called. a flattened green lateral appendage of the angiosperm will be called as leaf. What is meant by lateral appendage means? The leaves are arranged in the lateral sides. Sides of the angiosperm we can come across leaves like this. So they are arranged on the sides, so they are called lateral appendage. They are not cylindrical like a root and stem. They will be flat, broad in nature, and they will be green in color generally. So generally flattened, green colored lateral appendages of angiosperm or of the plant can be called as a leaf, it can be called. Now this leaf, the main function of the leaf is, what is the main function of leaf means? They undergo photosynthesis mainly. You might have heard about this word photosynthesis in what is that, lower classes also. During photosynthesis, the plants will take carbon dioxide and water from the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water from the soil they will take. In addition to that, sunlight will be used during this process. This reaction between carbon dioxide and water occurs in the chlorophyll. This chlorophyll is present in chloroplast. Those chloroplasts are occurring in the leaves only. So mainly the leaves of the plant are abundantly provided with chloroplast. Those chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. That chlorophyll is nothing but a pigment. This pigment is able to absorb solar energy. Remember, that is the major difference between plant and animals. Otherwise, autotrophs and heterotrophs we can say. In the case of autotrophs, this chlorophyll plays an important role. Autotrophs means what? The organisms which can prepare their own food. So the plants are the organisms which can prepare their own food. They are called autotrophs. How do they prepare their own food? By a process called photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, what are the raw materials used? Carbon dioxide, water and sunlight. What are the products obtained during photosynthesis means? It is glucose or starch we can say. C6H12O6, when they are produced in n number, many number, they combine among themselves, they become the starch, a macromolecule, a polysaccharide, they become. We will study about it a detailed lesson in plant physiology. Just I am giving you an outline here. In addition to this glucose, oxygen will be evolved during this process also. So that is photosynthesis, which is the photosynthetic organ for the plant means it is nothing but leaf. So leaf is the photosynthetic structure. Main function of the leaf is to undergo photosynthesis. There may be some modifications which we will study in the later part actually. Okay, I told you the definition for leaf and I told you the function of the leaf also. Let me explain you a 3-mark question related to the structure of the leaf now. Leaf structure. Structure of a leaf, a typical leaf we are going to study here. When we study about a leaf, it will be exhibiting 3 important parts in it. Imagine this is the stem of the plant, where they will be containing nodes and internodes like this. From the nodes, the leaf will arise as the lateral part. I told you already, it is the lateral appendage. What is meant by lateral? Side, right side or left side, like that. So from this lateral bud, otherwise, this bud or this growing tip is called axillary bud. From there, there will be a structure arising for the leaf like this. This leaf can be studied with the proper structural details here like this. Imagine this is the structure of a simple leaf where we can come across 3 major parts actually. What are those three parts of a leaf? Let me explain you here. Listen to me. This part where the point of attachment of the leaf with the stem. The point of attachment of the leaf with the stem, that is called as leaf base. We are telling. The point of attachment of the leaf with the stem is called leaf base. Remember, this part is not a leaf base, it is the point of attachment of the leaf with the stem. This is the stem means, with this the leaf is attached by a stalk-like structure. That attaching point, attachment point, that is called leaf base, we can see. There is a second part of the leaf also, that is the stalk-like structure. The stalk-like structure where the broad portion of the leaf is present. This stalk-like structure, this point, this is known as petiole, we can say. That is called petiole of the leaf. Remember these words, in 1 mark it can be asked. What is a petiole? It can be asked. The stalk of the leaf is called as petiole. S-T-A-L-K I am writing. That is called leaf actually, petiole actually. Now, there is a broad portion, flat portion, which will be green in color. That will contain main chlorophyll, pigment, chloroplast, everything. That broad portion of the leaf is called lamina of the leaf, it can be called. That is called lamina. Lamina will be otherwise known as leaf blade also. It can be also called as leaf blade. Remember, do you get my point? How many parts are there in the structure of a leaf? There are 3 parts, namely leaf base, which is the point of attachment of the leaf with the stem. Second one is called as petiole. Petiole is nothing but the stalk of the leaf, S-T-A-L-K I can say. That is the support, okay, stalk of the leaf. Third one is known as lamina of the leaf. This lamina is nothing but leaf blade, we can see. Okay, these are the 3 major parts we could come across in a leaf. Now let me tell you some other point related to the structure of the leaf. In this structure of the leaf, sometimes we could come across some hair-like or minute leaf-like structure at the axil like this. Minute leaf-like structure or hair-like structures will be produced here. Those hair-like structures are called stipules of the leaf, we will be calling them. They are called stipule. Remember, stipule is not the part of a leaf. It is the extra appendage, it can be called. This stipule may be present in some leaves, in some angiosperm it may be absent also. If there is stipule present in the leaf base, then it will be called stipulated leaf, it can be called stipulated leaf. If leaf base does not contain stipule, there is no stipule means, it will be called as X-stipulated leaf, it can be called. I will tell these words later. Now you see, this is called a stipule, you can remember. As far as leaf base is concerned, it can be differentiated into many types depending upon the nature of the plant. For example, this leaf base can be sheathy in nature, in monocots. Monocots will be exhibiting sheathy leaf base mainly. What is that sheathy leaf base? Imagine this is a monocot stem like a sugar cane or coconut plant, we can say. Here leaf will be arising from the node and they will grow like this. They will grow like this. This will become the leaf actually, green in color. This green color leaf will not contain what is that petiole like structure, but a part of the leaf will be covering the stem here. So this is called as a sheathy leaf base, it can be called. So sheathy leaf base, where do you find? In cereals. That means jawar, paddy, wheat, even sugar cane, there we can come across a sheathy leaf base. In some other plants, the leaf base will be known as pulvinate leaf base also. Pulvinate leaf base. This pulvinate leaf base will be found in leguminous plant, remember. Leguminous plant, dal varieties, pulse varieties, they contain pulvinate leaf base. What is that pulvinous? What is that pulvinate means? Imagine this is the stem where nodes and internodes are there in the pulses. Grams, dal varieties, we are telling no, tur dal and other dal varieties, where you can see the leaf base with a swollen structure like this. There will be a swollen structure in the base of the petiole, then petiole will be there, then the leaf will be like this. This swollen base is called pulvinous, we can say. So pulvinous and sheathy leaf base difference you should know. Regarding leaf base, I told you some point. Let me come to the petiole, second part of the leaf, that is called petiole. I told you about leaf base. So dear students, remember in a leaf there are how many parts? 3 parts. One is leaf base, second one is petiole, third one is lamina. As far as leaf base is concerned, it may be either sheathy or pulvinate, or it may be normal. It may be provided with a stipule, or stipule may be absent. That is a leaf base. Let me come to the petiole. Petiole refers to stalk of the leaf, remember. It is referring to stalk of the leaf. This stalk of the leaf or this tube-like structure is very important. Why means? It will help for positioning the leaf in a stem actually. Positioning means the leaf must be exposed to sunlight. Otherwise, they will not be able to undergo photosynthesis. So for getting sunlight, the leaf or this broad lamina should be exposed to sunlight. Who will hold that lamina in that particular position? How the leaf is growing in this flat manner means that is due to the petiole only. So petiole will be holding that lamina. It will hold that lamina in a particular position so that the lamina can be exposed to sunlight, as well as that lamina can bring wind also. So that the petiole will make the leaves to oscillate, wave-like motion, so that air can blow inside and there will be more cooling effect on the plant body. Not only exposure to the sunlight, but also to provide cooling effect, the leaf must be positioned in a proper area. All the leaves will not grow in cluster, remember. They will grow in different positions. For that, what is required? Petiole is required. So petiole refers to stalk of the leaf. Base is different, stalk is different. Let me come to the lamina here. Lamina refers to leaf blade. I told you already. This is the leaf blade. This leaf blade, it is flat in nature and it is green in color always. Why it is green in color means it is due to the presence of chlorophyll pigment. Where do you find chlorophyll pigment? In an organelle called chloroplast. Chloroplast will have chlorophyll pigment. That chloroplast is present in the lamina or broad leaf of the broad blade of the leaf. That is called lamina. Here it is not only containing chloroplast. There will be extension of petiole into the lamina in the leaf. So the lamina will have extension of the petiole. Remember, the name of that extension is called midrib, we can say. So that is called midrib. What is midrib? Extension of petiole into the lamina is called midrib. So let me write it here. Extension of petiole into the lamina is known as midrib, remember. So that is the midrib, which is also called as rachis of the leaf also. Rachis or rachis, R-A-C-H-I-S. Remember these words. So extension of petiole into the lamina is called midrib or rachis. Further, this midrib will be producing several branches like this into the lamina. There will be primary, secondary branch and all will be produced. This type of branches formed from rachis or branches formed from midrib will be known as veins, we can say. They are called veins and veinlets, we can say. Do you get my point? Where do we find veins and veinlets of the leaf means? It is found in the lamina of the leaf. Not in the base, not in the petiole, but in the lamina we can find the veins and the veinlets. So dear students, I told you the definition for leaf. It is a flat, green colored lateral appendage. What is the function of leaf? Photosynthesis. Main function is photosynthesis. Then I told you about structure of a leaf. In the structure of a leaf, we have come across three major parts, namely leaf base, petiole, lamina, like that. In addition to that, we have come across stipule, pulvinate, sheathy leaf base, like the various terminologies here. Even in the lamina, I told you about veins and veinlets also. These veins and veinlets will be responsible for conduction of water and minerals in the lamina. Conduction of water and minerals will be done by veins and veinlets. I told you already, leaf require water for photosynthesis. Who will supply that water up to the leaf or lamina means? That is, from the stem they will come to petiole. From the petiole they will come to the midrib. From there they will pass through the vein and veinlets. So efficient distribution of water, efficient supply of water is achieved through veins and veinlets. Remember, in our body also we have artery, vein and all. They are helping for blood flow, blood circulation. Similarly, in a leaf also, veins are helping for water circulation. Water will be moving through the lamina by means of veins and veinlets. That is another important point. Lastly, what is the function of petiole? Petiole is the stalk of the leaf. It will position the leaf properly. Because of that positioning, they will get enough sunlight. They will get wind blow also. So that is regarding structure of a leaf, remember. Okay? Just to make note of this. Okay, students. So we have seen the definition. We have seen the structure of leaf also. You must know what is called pulvinous. In a leguminous plant, the leaf base will be modified into pulvinous. Even in the plants like touch-me-not plant, you might have heard, In touch me not plant, muttidre muni antivala, in those plants also the leaf base will have pulvinous. In monocot plants and in sugarcane and cereal plants, jawar, paddy and wheat like that, we can come across sheathy leaf base. So remember those points also. Even I told you what is a midrib also. Midrib is nothing but extension of the petiole into the lamina. So petiole will extend into the lamina as a midrib. So remember, this is the stem with nodes and internode. And here we come across petiole like this. The petiole will be extending as a midrib, and here we come across the lamina like this. Let me tell you some more points also. In addition to the major three parts of the leaf, like leaf base, petiole and lamina, there are some more additional parts also we have to learn here. The tip of the leaf, this part, that is called apex of the leaf, it can be called apex. While the point of attachment of the leaf with the stem is called leaf base, the tip is called as apex, remember. This end margins of the plant leaf is there, they are called leaf margins, we can see. So remember these two words also, leaf apex and leaf margins. In different angiosperms, we could come across different type of leaf margins, you may remember. Some of them will have leaf margin into wave-like structure. Leaf margin will be wavy-like, wave-like. In Ashoka tree and all, you could have observed. In some of the cases like neem and other things, if you see means, the leaf base will be extending like this also. That means in hibiscus, neem and all, you could come across this type of what is that margins. These margins which are exhibiting teeth-like cuts, they are called as what is that serrated margin we are telling. These are called serrated margin. So size of the leaf, shape of the leaf, leaf margin, they all will vary from type to type. So different plants will have different sizes, other different species we can say. Different species of angiosperm can have different margins of the leaf. So shape, size, structure, everything will be varying according to the nature, according to the environment they grow in which. Okay, this is the main point. Now let me introduce one more terminology related to the leaf. Dear students, we must know what is called venation in one more question. One simple point I will introduce here. What is called venation? Venation refers to arrangement of, I write the definition here, arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina of the leaf. Arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina will be called as what is that venation. Here we could come across two types of venation in the leaf also. Two types of venation. One type of venation is called as reticulate venation, we could see. Reticulate venation. Reticulate venation. Second one is called as parallel venation, it can be called. So there are two major types of venation. What is venation? Arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina. So veins are nothing but the extension, otherwise midrib will be producing veins. Veins are like this, they will produce the branches like this, that is called veinlets. Imagine now, if the veins and veinlets are arranged in network-like manner, network-like arrangement, then it is called reticulate venation. Network means a jolly, we are telling, no, otherwise crossed structures. Veins and veinlets will produce cross structures. They will produce some network-like structure throughout the lamina. Best example for that is ficus, alamara antantivalla. That ficus leaf, if you observe, means if the ficus leaves falls on the soil, when it withers off, it will undergo decomposition. Afterwards, you can see only the network-like structure of the leaf. That network-like arrangement of vein and veinlets will be known as reticulate venation. Generally, almost all the dicots are exhibiting reticulate venation. Dicot plants are exhibiting reticulate venation mainly. What is meant by reticulate? Network-like. So vein and veinlets are arranged in network-like manner. That is called reticulate venation. They will be more efficient in supplying water and minerals to the lamina. Okay, let us come to the parallel venation here. From the name itself you can understand. In leaves of sugar cane, in the leaves of coconut tree, like the coconut plant at all, you could see they will have narrow lamina like this. Not a broad lamina, but a narrow lamina will be found. In that narrow lamina, there will be a midrib, main midrib like this. In coconut leaf, you imagine there will be the midrib. That midrib only we take and we process it, use as a broom actually. Barge antantivalla, that broom is made from this midrib of coconut leaf. So on the sides of this midrib, you can come across many parallel lines like this. This is called parallel venation, we can say. This is called parallel venation. Here the lamina is not broad, it is not flat, it will be narrow and elongated. In that narrow and elongated lamina, you could come across parallelly arranged veins. That is called parallel venation. Students, remember, parallel venation will be the characteristic feature of monocots actually. If the veins are arranged in network-like manner, we can directly say that that plant belongs to dicot of angiosperm. If they exhibit parallel venation, we can say that it belongs to monocot of the angiosperm. That is one of the morphological features, how you could distinguish between monocot and dicot. Monocot will have parallel venation. Dicots will have reticulate venation. Even in the root system, I told you one point for differentiating monocot and dicot. Monocots will have fibrous root system. Dicots will have tap root system. Do you remember? So when you plug the plant and observe, you can say whether it monocot or dicot, you can say clearly by just seeing the morphology. Two things you have to observe. One is the root, another one is the venation. If the root is fibrous root system and the venation is parallel venation, you can say it belongs to monocot. If the root is taproot system and network-like venation, reticulate venation, means you can say it is dicot. Do you understand this point? So dicot and monocot can be easily distinguished by seeing the morphology. There are many other differences also. Even in anatomy, you will come across differences of monocot and dicot, which we will see in the later classes. In today's class or in today's lecture, I told you about structure of a leaf, what is leaf and what are the three parts of the leaf. Even I told you about venation also. There are two types of venation, namely reticulate and parallel venation. Reticulate venation is nothing but network-like arrangement of vein and veinlets found in dicot. Parallel venation is parallelly arranged veins found in monocots. Okay, students, let us stop with this today. We shall continue remaining part in the later classes. Thank you.